is so small, and I really feel like it is. I'm aware that saying New York City is so small is a weird thing to say, especially because it is America's crowning jewel. Trust me, I know it's weird. But when you zoom in and look at the geography of the Big Apple, one of the most influential and emblematic cities in the world, sorry, I'm reading the history of what was previously New Amsterdam, then New York City, the city that we know and love, saying that it is small feels divisive for some reason, even though it shouldn't be, because it is. And then I had an epiphany. It dawned on me that New York City was a town. It was a town. It was never meant to become New York City. It's a small town that happened to become the most emblematic city in the world. And that feels crazy to say. At one point, it became the largest city on earth. Up to the 20th century, around 1950, New York City was the biggest city on earth. That's insane. It outstripped London for the title. Taking it back a little bit, the want for me to make this video is not because I hate New York, but because New York City is an ever glowing jewel, and it still is when you compare it to the rest of the world. Except that you'll find that it cannot keep up. It has been sort of frozen in the past and pales in comparison to other major cities in the world. And this harangue is not meant to be a dissertation with the sole objective of insulting or diminishing the legacy that New York City has built over the years. I really hate this lighting. But it is, and it has been, America's magnum opus, and I want to make that very clear before I carry on with the rest of my argument. After all, it is the backbone of America's finances, and it's just a salad bowl when it comes to culture. That said, it is not the capital of the United States. That would be Washington, D.C. And many people, especially those that are not Americans, mistake NYC to be the capital, but it's not. It was though. It was from 1785 to 1790 when George Washington was elected president in 89. They switched the capital. And it is said that Thomas Jefferson was actually one of the leading voices in that. He hated New York and he wanted nothing to do with it. So we have him to thank. But I kind of like that it is in the capital. I like the American approach to capitals more. I say the American approach, but it's really not compared to the European approach.
I'm editing the video and I have no idea what I just said there. What I meant to say was that there are two sorts of capital city models in the world. You can either follow the centralized approach, which is to place a city near the geographic center of a country, such as Paris, Madrid, even London yes. Or you could follow the decentralized approach, which is to make the capital city just the seat of government and distribute other responsibilities amongst other cities, such as New York being a hub for finance, and LA for entertainment, and Washington for government, and Boston for education. If you take London, for example, London's the center of entertainment, finance, education, innovation, etc. So that's what I meant.
I could make a whole video on just that. Back to the present day, New York City is a hub for finances, culture, food, the arts, cinema, entertainment, and innovation, being one of the most influential cities in the world and the most influential city in the US. I will read the following excerpt from Britannica. I'll link it down below. And also, all the footage that you see throughout this video, it's not mine. Probably from Cityvision or Coolvision. Like, I'll link it down below, or I'll try to put up a card somewhere. But it's not mine. Go and support the channels that actually went out to the streets to record, okay? No other city has contributed more images to the collective consciousness of Americans. Wall Street means finance, Broadway is synonymous with theater, Fifth Avenue is automatically paired with shopping, Madison Avenue means the advertising industry, Greenwich Village connotes bohemian lifestyles, 7th Avenue signifies fashion, Tammany Hall defines machine politics, and Harlem evokes images of the jazz age, African American aspirations, and slums. And I couldn't have said it better myself. However, when you take it out of America and compare it to the other cities in the world, it feels stuck in the past. It is not as avant-garde as it once was. It is this strange case of New York City and the rest of the world. According to the Globalization and World Cities Research Network, which is a think tank or an institute that ranks cities based on how connected they are to the international community, and they give them a ranking of either alpha, beta, gamma. New York City is one of only 2 cities in the world that holds an alpha plus plus ranking. At the moment I'm making this video, which is March 2024, there is only one other city in the world that holds that same ranking, and that is London, England. Not me, London Barry. It's London, England. And when you compare London, England to New York, they feel so different. They do. Well, I don't really know how to do any of the fancy graphics in Photoshop or Adobe, or I can't really tell them apart. I'm not that good with software, but I am good drawing, so I just bear with me while I draw it on paper like Marco Polo. The life of a cartographer. The life of a cartographer, people. The underground is more effective than the subway. London is cheaper. Well, not really. Well, the underground's more effective. It is greener. In some places, in some areas, it is a little bit cheaper to live in London. There are more free attractions. It has the closeness to mainland Europe, which makes it easier to trade and to have tourists come all over from different parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa. It is, in terms of land size, bigger than New York. One of the reasons why the city feels so small is mainly due to its geography, and by that I mean size. Disregarding completely the tri-state area and staying within the city limits of New York, only 304.6 square miles are what makes up New York. Only under 9 million people live in that area. That is so small, especially when you compare it to other world cities such as Hong Kong, Cairo, Tokyo, even Buenos Aires, Rio. You see that New York's just tiny. Like, how does it manage to have that much influence over the world if it's a fraction of the size in land and in population compared to other major cities in the world that have much more people and much more land? Yesterday I watched a video by Real Life Lore on why Egypt is building a new capital away from Cairo. It opened my eyes. I will link the video in the description. Please do yourself a favor and go see it. Like, right now, I'm not kidding. Click out of this and go see him. And the new Egyptian capital, which has no name yet, is completely glamorous, over the top, avant-garde. One of the main reasons Egypt is building a new capital is to help Cairo deal with overcrowding and overpopulation and traffic and congestion, amongst many other reasons, a lot of them political, and I will not get into that. You can make up your own mind when you go watch Real Life Lore's video, not this one. But what I took from that video was that New York City works. There has never been a need to build another New York away from New York to help relieve some of the pressures of overcrowding or overpopulation or congestion, traffic, because New York is up to date. It works. The small place works. Somehow it works. You may be thinking, London, Cairo is so different from New York. Everything works differently there. And it's the capital, the government seat, the parliament seat of the government. You get the point. And well, that is true. They're really not that different when you look at them statistically. Less than 22.8% of Cairo's population owns a car. And about 50% of New Yorkers don't own a car. So they don't like cars. Well, in Cairo, they can't afford them. But in New York, they choose not to because there's no need. If you look at population density, the one of Cairo is 50,180 people per square mile. That of Manhattan is a staggering 74,871 inhabitants per square mile, which is just insane. So they're not that far apart. Well, sort of, but not really. But the thing that I take is that Manhattan works. There's no need to build another Manhattan, whereas in Egypt, they have to build a new capital because Cairo cannot take it anymore. It's been taking it for centuries, for decades, for millennia even. Cairo is just like, please don't give birth to more children. In fact, the government's actually kind of taken away from the one-child policy or the two-child policy in China. Go watch Real Life Lord's video. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is about New York, not Cairo.
Behind a new Egyptian government program Get Their Way, his family won't get any bigger. The goal of the Two's Enough initiative is to reduce population growth by encouraging people to limit their families to 2 children.
Further, the new Egyptian capital is a show-off of the most ridiculous, amazing technology, infrastructure, and futuristic urbanism ever that puts every other city in the world to shame. New York fails to even compare to the debris left over by the bulldozers in Cairo. It is Egypt's Gioconda. Even if you wanted to build another New York next to New York, there's no space. Think of that. There's no space. Even if you wanted to build another New York, you couldn't build another New York because you cannot grow land, except if you're the Netherlands. But topic for another video. I don't know why I keep saying topic for another video. Maybe I'll make it. Maybe not. Probably not. I love New York. I love America. But I'm just stating the obvious. There's no space to build in New York. This is mostly to the fact that it is an island. And the only borough that connects to the mainland is the Bronx, which makes it feel even more isolated to the rest of the country. This is maybe why some Americans think that New York City is the least American city, but I don't think that's necessarily true. To outsiders, New York is the pendant of the American dream. You have everything just right there. You don't have to go anywhere. Just like you would in a small town. Everything's right there. The people are right there. The community is right there. You go out into the streets, you don't even have to own a car. You're in a small town. Except that in this case, New York City is the single most important small town in the world. As I was talking about earlier, New York City is divided into 5 boroughs, which are, in case you don't know, where have you been living under a rock? Ridiculous. Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, and Staten Island. All of them are de facto cities within a city that is essentially a de facto city which within a state, which is essentially a de facto state within a country. Don't you just love American politics and geopolitics and federalism and history? Yes. Manhattan, being the oldest borough and the most relevant one arguably, it's also the smallest in size, characterized by its grid design and harboring various NYC staples such as Times Square, Central Park, and the Empire State Building. It's surrounded by the Hudson River to the west and the East River to the east. Brooklyn is the most populous borough. In it, you'll find Coney Island. It's also described as an artsy haven with a focus on its architectural heritage. Queens is the biggest one geographically and the most diverse one. You'll find the Met Stadium there and the single most important airports for the tri-state area, which are JFK Airport and LaGuardia. The Bronx.
I like taking my hair out like this. It reminds me like when I was 16 in the Bronx, running up and down the block. A crazy little girl who used to be wild and no limits, all dreams and
Hi. I used to live here.
Huh?
I used to live here.
Where's your name?
Huh?
Where's your name?
My name is Jennifer.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I used to live and my room was upstairs right there.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Lopez.
Who's Jennifer Lopez?
Me. I used to live here. For a long time.
Although historically disserviced and arguably done wrong, its recent quote-unquote transformation has been at the mouth of many who call it home. It's the only borough that connects to the mainland, and you can find the Botanical Garden and Yankee Stadium in it. Lastly, Staten Island, the most discreet of them all and the least known. It's the most suburban one, out of the 5, and that's it. There's nothing else to do in Staten Island. Well, except that it preserves a lot of nature and hiking trails and whatever, so I just went on an abysmal tangent. But what I meant to say is that you can grow up in any borough and never feel a need to go to another one because you don't have to. Everything's right there because that's how small and compact the city really is. It's an island, smaller than Hong Kong, Berlin, and in contrast to Hong Kong and Berlin, which are cities that are still growing, New York has reached its peak. There is no space for mega projects in the area. New York is done. Manhattan is done for. You cannot build any more things in Manhattan. I mean, you could. They have been building more things in Manhattan, but I'm talking mega projects here. You cannot build any more mega projects. And the trick is that New York doesn't really have to build any more things to adapt to the modern world. The old structures that the city was built in and built around and built off were meant to suffice and set the tone for what will become the Big Apple. It's sort of, everything runs. Not smoothly, but it runs. When you compare it like other cities like Paris, Jakarta, or even Cairo, for the sake of things, that were built centuries before New York was, and are now trying to modernize. Before, it was a crazy thing. Like New York City, it's New York City. Except that now, it's not forward-looking, it's time-honored. And it fuels the sense of small town and fills the air with Americana-tainted clouds, which even further makes New York its own little magical place isolated from the rest of the country and the world for that matter. Its weather rightfully resembles that of the rest of New England. During the winters, it can consistently go down to about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And during the summer, it can go up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty consistent to the rest of New England. Maybe a little bit milder considering it's an island. And the city has come to peace with what it is. It's still growing. People are still moving there. Just the pace in which people are doing so is so slow compared to Cairo, Laos, Nigeria.
I don't know why I said Laos instead of Lagos, but trust me, I know it's Lagos. Laos is a completely different country. It's in Asia, and Lagos is a city. So I know I'm not that blonde.
Nairobi, Kenya, that you don't really see it and you can't really tell that it's visually growing. I cannot really imagine New York City becoming high-tech sci-fi like Tokyo or Singapore or Osaka or Beijing. You can't. New York City is New York City. When you're in New York, you're in New York, period. There are very relevant ports to America in New York City. It is a gateway to the rest of the world. There are top universities such as Columbia University. The subway works, and although it could use work, it still works. Headquarters of financial institutions are in New York. It is also the headquarters of the United Nations. There's also theaters, and you can find the richest of rich and the poorest of the poor. Unfortunately, I would say New York's size is sort of a lyrical, comical, and ironic reflection of its role as a global economic powerhouse and cultural epicenter. This concentration of economic, cultural, and social activities within a confined space fuels a sense of intimacy and interconnectedness amongst its residents. Despite being a sprawling metropolis, the city retains a scene of community, with neighborhoods functioning as microcosms of diverse cultural enclaves. Within this compact urban landscape, frequent interactions with residents and businesses and institutions foster a sense of belonging that transcends geographic boundaries. Turns out even the smallest star can shine the brightest. A far-off colony in the New World became a larger-than-life symbol of resounding impact and urban magic. My name is London Barry, and if you like this video, check me out singing, whatever. It's not that good, but I promise you maybe be entertained. I have also some other literature videos. I want to do a video just like this about Paris, and I hope that you liked my drawings, because I'm not really the best at that. Just kidding, I'm being modest, I'm the best at that. And that was it. So, well, enough rambling. Okay,